Hi there. Today I'm going to try a small tube fly, and this is a very classic, very famous, very famous pattern, but fairly easy pattern. It's called the Uldsok. Very famous in Denmark and Norway, and it's frankly quite simple, but has really proven itself time and time again throughout Scandinavia. So what I'm going to do is actually we're not going to use that many materials. We're going to use black and red dubbing, some hackles, and then gold tinsel. So a little trick here is to take the tinsel and then with your scissors just almost cut it, but not quite, and then you can just rip off the outer layer, the gold layer, and then you get this middle thing. Here, this will make your tying base a bit smaller, so it's easy to make a very beautiful butt part of this fly. So here I'm taking care to not make any bumps with the tying thread, because I want this to be as sound a base as I can for making a completely beautiful butt part here. So, taking my tinsel and turning it so it's laying completely tight. Just do that 5 times, something like 4 or 5 times, depending on the thickness of your tinsel, of course. And since the rest of the fly we're just going to use dubbing, I'm just going to make sure everything is tight and securely, and just not take too much care about the rest of this here. So I'm gonna use a bit of thread to make sure I have a nice and even base all the way up along the tube here. This is a Futurefly tube. So like so. Okay, then we're back to scratch here. Like so. So I'm gonna take a small amount of hot red dubbing. This is SLF dubbing, a nice dubbing material, and just gonna put some on there. Seems to be something a bit like this, and this is just going to be the other part of the butt section here of this fly here. So like so. It's okay if some of it sticks a bit out and stuff like that. It just gives a bit more life, a bit more dubbing, not much, but a bit more. Like so. So you get a small bundle of dubbing here in red, and then it's hackle time. For the original Uldsok, or wool stocking as it would be translated, you use kind of like this very vibrant, very warm brown rooster packs. This is a whiting rooster pack made, and this color is actually specially selected for exactly this fly. But for the Danish condition and for Sweden and stuff like that, where flies of a more golden olive, golden coppery hue, I would say I'm going to use this today. This is the whiting badger rooster capes, and these capes are unbelievable. They're out of this world. So beautiful they are. Very thin stems, completely awesome, huge amounts of feathers, and all the feathers have completely perfect properties, and no one is not a single feather is damaged and stuff like that. It's just, well, whiting is for sure the best there is, and they prove that time and time again. This color is going to be one of my very favorite colors of all times. It looks perfect for both sea trout flies, for streams and salmon flies, but also this is going to be very good for coastal flies as well. So this color is just unbelievable. Golden copper olive. So one of the trick here is to select 3 feathers at once, so you get 3 kind of identical feathers, because we're going to have 3 hackles all the way up here. So first off, I'm going to take this hackle and I'm going to tie it down in the tip. And one of the tricks to get this fly to be as good as it can be, to be as beautiful as it can be, is to select the feathers correctly and use the right feathers. So use feather of a certain quality, and the job is halfway done for you. So I'm gonna turn this here, all the while making sure that my feathers are the fibers are correctly positioned. Sorry for my grammar. I slip sometime. You know, English is not my native language, as you no doubt have come to notice. But I try the best I can. I hope it's okay. Like so. And then I'm gonna cut this off. This fly is intended to have a small profile. This fly is intended to be small, to be unnoticed until the very moment where it is right in the face of a salmon or a sea trout, because this is kind of like a fly that is intended to make an impression, but only when it's right there, when it pops out right in the head of the salmon. So it is lightly dressed fly, used for sneak attack. You could almost say sneak attack on the salmon. So it's not a fly that will be very visual. It's a fly for maybe low water conditions, and to fish perhaps where fish have seen a lot of flies, and this is something that can actually just stand out and be something unique, because this is a completely different way of tying. I think it's partly inspired probably by some of the shrimp patterns from Ireland, but it has its kind of like its own story. I can't recall if it's invented by the Dane Jan Grunwald, or if he just the one that made it famous in the northern in the Scandinavian countries. But I remember as a boy of about 8 or 10, what I did back then was I fished mostly with a spinning rod, and I fished in the harbor of Aarhus for a cod and pollock and stuff like that. You know, all the fish that rests in flounders and stuff like that. You know, swing heavy lures with heavy gear and using nylon lines and stuff like that. Having a blast basically, but not catching that much. And I went down to the library one day because I like to listen to audiobooks. And while I was browsing through the audiobooks in the children's section, I have read almost everything, or listened to almost anything in there that was of any interest. So I started browsing the grown-up section, and there on the shelf was this book, this audiobook, and on the cover was a blank side of a salmon, just not a photograph but a painting, and then there was a fly on it, and all the audiobook read was on the cover was salmon. So I thought, what the hell? This looks like some interesting stuff. So I picked it off the shelf and brought it back home, and then I was blown away. It turned out to be a book about salmon fishing with a fly, made by a now very famous Danish author called Jan Grunwald. And just his way of telling these stories about these salmon just blew me away. And I listened to this book, maybe 3 or 4 times straight in a row. As soon as it ended, I just plugged on the first cassette in my tape recorder and started it back all over, because I was simply blown away by by this experience of someone else, because I didn't have that many other, except from a couple of buddies of mine who actually would understand the universe I was living in, fishing 5 days a week in the harbor for cod with my. But here was this guy who was actually talking about Norway and stuff like that, and it was just unbelievable, out of this world, and I was just thrilled. But I had no one to share my excitement with, and I dreamed about Norway and I dreamed about salmon and stuff like that. But it was only many years later that I actually got to go to Norway. Oh, as you see, it's kind of like rinse and repeat here. I just did the second hackle, and I really wanted to go to Norway. I talked to my grandfather because he had been to Norway as well, but he kind of gave up on fishing, and I didn't go fishing anymore and stuff like that. And I really wanted to try this, and I really wanted to try this with a fly rod. But it was a few years later that I finally got my first fly rod, and then when I actually did go to Norway, and I did do that. I think I was 13 or something like that the first time, so probably 3 or 4 years later after the experience with the book. Now you need another section of dubbing here. I came to Norway with all this high hopes and all these expectations and all these wild tales roaming around in my head. And I came to a river, the river of Mandal, to fish for salmon in the middle of a very hot summer. Though there was practically no water in the river at all, and all the fish were only active in the darkest hours of night, and no one on the river was catching anything. I think while we was there for a week, I saw about 2 salmon landed, and both on worms in a very deep hole and stuff like that. But the magic stayed. I caught some nice river trout, some nice brown trouts in the river, and a very nice sea trout, and a very nice lake trout also up on the mountain, because the fishing in the river was so poor. But the magic stayed, and actually I went back to Norway 6 times more before I actually caught my first salmon on a fly, because salmon is the fish that I've always, the mythical beast that I've always had a lot of trouble catching. For some reason I can't seem to get it right. Or perhaps it's just that I've never been to a salmon stream in good conditions. I've never fished a salmon stream where the water has been below 19 degrees, for instance. So I partly blame that, but you gotta see the writing on the wall when you've been to Norway 8 times like I have and only caught 2. So I don't know what it is with me and salmon. I enjoy tying the flies, and I really enjoy fishing in Norway and fishing in Denmark as well. But for some reason, this fish just is the one fish that always seems to elude me. I've hooked salmon, and one time in Norway in the first week of the season, I hooked a very big one, definitely above 10 kilos, and I had him on for like 6 or 7 minutes, and I thought, this is the real thing. I really have done it this time, and I'm gonna get him. Or her, of course, but he made a large jump at the end, in the middle of the fight, and then the hook lost its grip, and I just cursed. I've been fishing 10 days straight, 18 hours a day, just casting. When this finally happened, and then nothing more for the last 4 days of this fishing trip. But that's salmon fishing for you. So I'm looking forward to perhaps having the time to go salmon fishing, and I'm contemplating going to the Kola Peninsula next year to fish for salmon, because at least there I know there will be salmon, and if I can't catch any in the Kola Peninsula, then I'm just not destined to do so ever, I think. But as you can see, while I was ranting and telling stories from the old days, I did the fly, and here it is. You see, 2 sections of black dubbing and 3 hackles small butt part with golden ribbing and some red dubbing, and then you're there. A very simple fly, but because this is so simple, it's actually quite hard to get the proportions correctly. But I think I did quite well here. I actually had to tie 3 or 4 of this before actually turning on the VCR, the video camera, because I wanted this to be right. I'm just gonna add a small drop of super glue here to make sure everything is tightened and fastened correctly, and then there you have them. The wool stocking, or Uldsok as it's called in Danish and in Denmark and Norway and Sweden. A very proven, very reliable pattern. Well, thank you for tuning in, and of course there is a full material kit for this fly if you click on the corners. So thank you for tuning in. Those were the words. Bye.